Small, and I came to the organic school after 1 year of public school in Foley, Alabama. Um, and I think my earliest impressions of the school are the contrasts between what my first grade experience was like in a public school, um, which was probably fairly typical of most public schools in Alabama in the time, which was 1940. I was a first grader in 46, 47, and I came to the organic school 47, 48. My public school experience, I had a wonderful teacher, very warm, caring person. But the curriculum was fairly standard, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I will never forget walking into the First Life building at the organic school and all of a sudden realizing that there was something totally different going on. I had Eloise Nichols Rowe as my second grade teacher. And Eloise was a very vivacious, wonderful person to walk into a classroom with. There was a big open room. There were small tables set off in one corner where we did our reading and those kinds of things. There was a shop room in the back. There was a pool out in the backyard. And there were all these and then behind that were a whole thicket of yopon bushes underneath the tall longleaf pines. And all I remember about that first year was a kind of wonderful flow. And I don't ever remember Eloise directing us a whole lot. But the day would start with our academic work, and by the end of the day, we would have made things in shop. We had clay in the corner that wasn't processed in any way whatsoever. It was just great big huge hard rocks of it, and we had to break it up with hammers, wet it, soak it, get the water out of it, and actually create the clay that we were going to use to mold. We made everything, and we still have those dishes and things around the house. But the thing that was so striking to me, even as a second grader, was this sort of wonderful sense of inner direction that I began to feel in this school at a very, very early age. Obviously, this was a teacher-directed classroom, but my perception as a child was that there was a great, big, wonderful world out there, and I now had an opportunity to explore it. We spent hours in creative, dramatic play in those yopon bushes. We made up stories about everything all the time. Because I had gone to a public school and had been gone through a first grade reading program in the public school, my reading level was considerably more advanced than the kids who had been in the organic school. And so the teacher accommodated to that by simply just handing me a book that I could read on my own. And we spent a great deal of time in the organic school reading aloud to our teachers. I think that has tremendous value for a child, just in terms of hearing your own voice and understanding that reading out loud is a form of performing art, just as some of the other performing arts are. We began learning folk dancing, which of course was a tremendous treat to me. And the progression of learning more and more dances all the time was just wonderful. There was also a sense, even though we were in a building at one end of the campus, there was a tremendous sort of sense of collegiality with everybody else who was on the campus. I remember that being a very important piece. It was a small school, everyone knew everybody. The older students looked out for the younger students. We knew who everybody was. At Spring Festival, we all got to come and watch the older students dance. There was a tremendous sort of facilitation of interpersonal experiences that I think were very, very important. But my major impression of my first experience at the organic school was of this extraordinary contrast between what my first year in school had been about, which was I had not had the opportunity to make choices. The day was arranged in a certain way, and you went through it as it was arranged. At the organic school, there was much more a sense of the child being able to find a way to make choices, and that honoring and respecting that child's ability to make those choices. So I think that was an important first memory.
My name is Karen Horne Small, and
Stop. We've been doing this all week.
I told you. And I'm not actually sure what year we started. Maybe a year after you.
Maybe.
But I think Richard and I started together because Verda Horne, our mother, began teaching. So whatever year that was.
I suspect you're right. I think it was 1 year after I started.
Yeah. And I always thought, until just a few years ago, that it was Verda's acquaintance with, like, Marietta Johnson's philosophy that brought us to the organic school, but it turned out that it was really my dad, Rick Horne, because he heard Marietta Johnson come to speak at a CCC camp at Gulf State Park. And he was so impressed with what she said that he decided that his children would go to the organic school, and made that happen by moving over to the Eastern Shore from Foley. I think what struck me right from the very beginning about organic was that the teachers simply made the experiences that were the dearest and most precious to children, if they were given the choice, they brought those experiences into the classroom. And I think the result of that was that we had a deep sense of dedication to the school from the time, we could practically talk about the experience at all. I remember one of the first things we did, and I don't know if I was 4 or 5, but we learned a song. Do you remember it? It was, 3 little boys went out to play beneath the trees one summer's day. They wandered far into the wood until at last before them stood a wicked witch, both old and gray. Right. So we memorized this song, and then we acted it out. The teachers had it. Remember, I sung it to you, right? Yeah. It's actually, I think it's called The Story of St. Nicholas, because a saint by the name of St. Nicholas comes and stares down the witch and rescues the little boys. And I remember acting this thing out, and we acted it out over and over again so that everyone got a turn. I also remember cooking. Cooking is a big thing with me. I remember we had an old wood-burning stove in a back room, and we made fudge. Well, the things I remember are fudge and donuts. And another interesting thing which has stuck with me was we learned how to make a simple printing press. I can remember the smell of the gelatin. We set gelatin and made some kind of primitive, what's that process where it comes out purple?
Oh, right. Duplicator.
Yes.
Thing.
We made our own duplicator and then duplicated our designs and that kind of thing.
So doing your own printing at the organic school was a big thing. I can remember Kenny Kane and I slaving over the most incredibly antique